Hey everybody, welcome to part 5 of drawing the portrait in India Ink and Airbrush. I'm so glad you guys are here. Thank you so much for stopping by. This is going to be very exciting. This is when it gets really nice, when things start coming together. All the hard work sort of pays off by going in with the dark accents, the white pastel, maybe coming in with some paintbrush action using the liner brush or rigger brush by Winsor & Newton. So I'm very excited. I think this is going to be a very good live stream, part 5. It might even be a part 6, but that's to be determined how I feel after part 5 is done, whether or not it's something that you guys will learn from and something that I feel like doing. So that combination. So let me go ahead and start by activating the chat so I can see you wonderful people talking to me. Let's see. Okay, so let me go and do that. While that's happening, let's change the screen. Oh, 1 second. There we go. We'll change the screen to that while I go and do this. There we go. Just have to reauthorize it. You know, the standard thing I do every week. So, one moment. Almost there. You'll see if we're hearing crickets or someone actually decided to join me on this beautiful Wednesday night in sunny, cloudy, cold, dreary New Jersey. So let's see. Well, not always, just today. All right, so it looks like we have quite a few people here. Mike, how you doing? So good to see you. Glad you made it this week. You got his 2020. That's pretty cool. So you're sore. Oh no, why are you sore, my friend? Jersey Joe, good to see you. It's good to see you. And sorry you can't hear long. Started a new job. Get up at 4. Man, that's early. But I definitely understand. Thank you so much for making the attempt to hang out with me. I really appreciate that, my friend. So this is part 5. So part 5 is going to be good. So here we can see how far we have come. During the week, I went ahead and worked on the stone in the background, worked on some of that texture, also worked on her blouse as I said I was going to do. So, you know, those things really are going to make part 5 go a lot smoother. What I'm going to do very, very quickly is I'm just going to pull it up on the big screen so I can see what you guys see. Let's see. Just be one moment, guys. I just want to make sure I'm seeing the picture correctly. You know, the computer is not always a telltale sign of how things look. Should say part 5. There it is. We are live. In 1 second, I'll be seeing what you guys see on the big screen. Perfect. It looks good to me. So I'm sure it looks good to you guys. Tone, good to see you. How's it going? Oh, so Mike says that the changes play. Oh, man, I can hear that. I'm so sorry about that. I hope you feel better. The weather is changing rather dramatically or drastically. I said dramatically. I think I invented a word. Let's look that up. Dramatically. Okay, so I have from a prior painting that I was working on before this live stream, I have the light mixture. We all know the light mixture at this stage is not what you want. So I'm just going to dump out the light mixture. And then I am going to come over here and get my dark mixture over here. See how quick it is to go from dark to light mixture. It's amazing and clean. You don't got to go out and start doing mixtures and whatnot. Look at that, man. Just 1, 2, 3. Quick, easy, and neat. That's why I love this painting method. Okay. What I do is when I cut the color line paper, I make, because you're going to have some spare pieces, so you're going to use those spare pieces to see how the ink is going to react to different, to your paper. See how the white's going to react rather than seeing that or testing that on the actual workspace that you are, that your artwork's on. So All right, so let's see. Uh, oh man, hey David, good to see you. How you feeling, man? How's everything going? So oh, herniated disc, that's not good, my friend. Oh wow, I hear that's very painful. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so now I have the dark mixture. Dark mixture is where we're going to go ahead and start bringing a lot of these midtones that we're working so hard to achieve, and then making the rich darks right next to it. And it's where we also go ahead and pull up some detail. And this is where things are going to really start coming together. Oh, thanks, Tone. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. So we get some of these really nice, rich darks. And it's really going to do a lot to pull up the likeness of our model that we were striving for the whole painting. But the thing is now it's all coming together. Now when I say striving for, I really mean working towards, but not really worrying about it. Just making sure we're paying attention to what we're painting. You know what I mean, guys? Oh wow, working on cars, yeah. I can imagine, you know, that's very strenuous work on the back. So now you can see we're filling in some of those darks. Well, David, thank you. David says it's a very nice painting. I appreciate that, sir. Here's where we really can concentrate on those irises being the exact size on each. Not exact size, but close. You know, sometimes people have one eye that's larger than the other, especially in her case, but you still want it to be in the same ballpark. Because, you know, a lot of people aren't going to understand that when they're looking at your painting, even though that's the way it was. So looking at this, I can see that this eyelid right here, I made it kind of darker than it should be. So I'm just going to calm it down. And what I can do is sort of like a dagger stroke with this mono eraser. Because I don't want to make everything around it lighter, just where it is. Mike says he likes the way the background is coming together. It looks good. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I love doing backgrounds like this, you know, the ancient Maya and the Aztecs, you know. I've always been fascinated by that archaeology, the artwork of Mesoamerica and everything like that. And so you can see how right now, by worrying about things such as edges and you know, values and everything, we really can start to really bring her together. And that's the thing, you want to make sure that where you see where edges sort of disappear, even though you have an eyelid, you want to pretty much continue that whole eyelid line, that crease. If you don't see it, then definitely don't put it in. And you know, that's what we have to fight. We have to fight that proclivity to put in what our conscious really believes should be there. The whole paint what you see and not what you don't see or what you think is there. Now, that's the beauty of coming in with the dark. You'll start to see a lot of the subtleties, because when you put in that dark mixture, the midtones really stand out, and you can see where you can even go darker. And that whole 1 second rule. Remember the 1 second rule, guys. Very important. I remind myself that every day I paint. Oh, David says that it looks better than the picture. Thank you, sir. I think a lot might have to do with the way that, this picture is closer to the light source. It's kind of blurring it out. But thank you, my friend. And then you can see where the lights are. I can pretty much, calm that down by just doing a quick dusting over the highlights or the lights of the hair on top there. Just a quick dusting. Over here, we do have some darks here, sort of the cast shadow of the hair onto her forehead. And I'm just doing these dagger strokes, keeping the air on all the time. There we go. Always go ahead and double check, make sure that especially at this stage, you want to make sure that your airbrush is working correctly. And it is. But, you want to make sure sometimes when you put down a similar tone on top of another tone, it looks like nothing's happening. At that point, you really want to make sure that, the paint's coming out correctly. Oh, David, you're going to finally order your new airbrushes. Now, which ones are they going to be, my friend? Okay, so we have a lot of texture to do here, and I think I might come back with the forehead with the medium mixture for that. But before I do that, I'm just going to come in and start to hit some of the darker areas I can do right here. Sort of give some texture to her skin, and that's something that we want to do. Over here we have a really nice dark that we can hit on, and so that's what we really want to do. So once we go ahead and start hitting those darks, you're really going to see that the midtones are really going to pop out. And once those midtones pop out, then come in with the really dark accents and the highlights, and then things will really start to come together almost magically. Now we can definitely use a freehand shield here because we can separate the hair from this cast shadow here. There we go. So you see how now you can actually feel her neck and, behind her hair. And that's what we really want to do. But we really could never really start to even attempt to achieve that until this particular time. Oh, great. So which badgers are you liking? I do highly recommend the Extreme Patriot Arrow with a modified trigger. I think you're really going to like that. I call that the Micron Killer. And also the Sotar 2020 Slim, which is a favorite of mine as well. Okay, for cars and trucks, you're going to need a lot of paint, right? So I would get the Extreme Patriot, not the Arrow. that has a bigger cup, so I would probably go with that one. And then, so that would be like more of your detailed brush. Now I love the Sotar 2020 Slim, but that has a very, I don't know if that's going to be good for you because you're going to probably need a lot of paint to do cars, I'm imagining. Now, here's the tricky part, is where to make the hard edges so she comes forward, and where to make the soft edges so you feel like she's actually in space or there's atmosphere around her. So these are the good problems to have at this stage. Now on this side, you'll see that there's very soft edges here, so I'm not going to use the freehand shield like I did on this side. And also, we can just keep moving around in the background here. We want to give that feeling that, you know, this is something carved, so you really want to pay attention to where the information that's in the darks, meaning that, you know, on the edges of this sculpture as it's coming forward, it's a little more dark and then softer in the middle. And catching that, as you can see, you really start to feel like it's going back into space. Exactly. So something, you know, pretty. I think if you got the Extreme Patriot Arrow with the larger, but I don't, Jersey, you probably know better about painting cars. So I'm not your man when it comes to something like that. So Jersey Joe is right. I would say the 0.5. So Joe, what would you think would be a good brush for something like that? Okay, so now we're going to start saying maybe we could go ahead and start creating some atmosphere as we get down here. And I can pretty much bump the trigger and move around, you know, because I want to create texture here. I don't want it to just be. So I want to really feel like, you know, it's still rock down here. Now over here it's relatively light, so we're not going to go too crazy there. But let's go ahead and use the freehand shield here, and we're going to just hit on some of these darks. Remember, perpendicular, not parallel. Because I really want that dress to come away from her breast there, right? So that's how we're going to achieve that. Over here we can definitely use our freehand shield to get a real beautiful hard edge right here. So we really want to feel that hair against her blouse there. Hey, Brush Strokes, how's it going there? How you been, Jake? And you want to make sure that you are clean throughout, meaning that you don't have one area that's sort of not having enough ink on it or paint, regardless of what you work on. You want to make the work clean. And if you always do that 1 second rule, you're going to be in good shape. So keep that in mind always, 1 second. Hey, Jake, thank you so much. I appreciate that, my friend. Thank you. And then we're going to look and see, especially in these shadows, where is it darker? And when we do that, we're going to create a lot of depth in those rocks there. Okay, so let's make sure that we're going to do some details. So we want to make sure when you do details, you want to make sure your brush is on point. Okay, so here we go. Just these little tiny eyelashes there, something very little, very light. Let's see, on this side, do we have anything? We do have something on the other side, but I think that's a job for the light mixture. You definitely don't want to do tight mix. You don't want to do tight detail for the dark mixture. That's not what it's for, and it's not what it's best for. So my whole thing with art supplies is always use the art supply that's best for the job. That's why I really feel that, I believe in these mixtures, because it is designated for certain parts of the job. And it's not just, you're on your own and these are what they are. If you follow these videos, my live streams, you guys, everyone will see that each mixture has a specific job, and it really will save anyone using them from making mistakes or ruining work. And I think that's worth a lot. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and start doing some of the fun part, and that of course is the white pastel. I think we're definitely there. A little bit later I'll come in with the medium mixture, and we'll do some detail, maybe some light mixture for the real tight detail by the eyes. But at any rate, what I'm going to do is we are going to take our sandpaper and our white pastel. And we are going to start to really bring her to life here. Let's see. And you can see by, everything parts 1 through 4 is setting this part up, which I really love. Hey, what's up, Jacob? Good to see ya. So cool, man. So you see, now is when we're doing the really fun part. Hey, Raul, how's it going? Thank you so much. Oh, man, I'm so glad you're here. You too, Jacob. And just like everything else, you know, it's just those, you know, those little dagger strokes, even with the way I'm applying the pastel with the tortilla or stump here. Thank you, Jake. I appreciate that. And over here, now you can see that we can actually really start scumbling in the white pastel to give life not only to the eyes, but to all other areas here. See, I have a fresh one here, and this one, the points really get pretty dull with these. They're like 30 cents, so they're pretty inexpensive. So you can chuck one if you need to. It's no biggie. But as you can see, the eyes are really starting to become shiny all of a sudden. Then we can really go in there and just do some really cool things. Ah, Jake says, thanks for showing the reference. Oh, you're welcome. Now, the reference also is on my website, Painted Glyphs, paintedglyphs.com. If you guys want to download that reference to work on it, you guys are free to do that. So, Jake, you're starting a YouTube. That's very cool. I can't wait. So, I started doing YouTube back in 2008. And I was doing it on and off for many years, but then I started doing it like real serious in the January of 2017. So I guess I'm approaching 3 years now, huh? Unbelievable. 3 years of, you know, at least once a week. So I'm so glad you're starting it. That's great. I tell you, it's been quite a ride. And as you can see, when we come in with the white pastel, you start to have the ability to really create some nice texture, or a texture that is there that you weren't able to achieve before, but the white pastel really helps. That's going to be a great channel there, Jake. I'm looking forward to it. So what I like to do is I like to scumble the white in, you know, sort of just, that's how I work in pastels. So that's pretty much how I'm doing that, you know. So all those years of knowledge in pastel really lends to this technique. This technique is sort of came out of a need, you know. So with that 1 second rule really help you when you're doing some tight areas like this. You make sure you don't put things that don't belong or omit things that do belong. So that's very important. That's very cool, Jake. Sounds good. Tone says I make it look easy. Thank you, Tone. I appreciate that very much so. I'll tell you, live streams were always very hard. And one of the things I decided was I'm going to do live streams more than anyone out there. And I'm going to become the best at it. So that's what I really decided to do. I would say about 1.5 years ago is when I made that decision. I've seen too many people mess up with live streams. I mean, really mess up. And I was one of them where all of a sudden I had like... you know, it was a loud echo and there was a screeching noise and just so many different things. So I definitely paid my dues with the live streams, but learning, you know, what could go wrong, have it go wrong, and how to fix it, that's what really made the difference, Tone. But I'll tell you, you're doing really well with that, Tone, definitely. I did not do as good as you in the beginning. Jake says that he can't follow along with my technique and can't understand that if I don't. Oh, well, it just takes time, you know, Jake, like anything else. And you just gotta be patient with the whole process and everything like that. Not everyone is meant to do, you know, we all do our own techniques, you know, especially, you know, finding a way to do it is, it's all trial and error, whatever works for you. My technique might not be right for some people. Hey Jeff, how's it going? Good to see you, man. So as you can see, just by coming in with that white pastel really lends a lot uh, to the technique, you know. Oh, do I keep the reference up all the time? Sometimes I do. You mean as far as when I'm working? I do. I keep it up all the time. Of course, right? That's a given. But as far as sometimes I'll have room for the reference. The reference I have now is just because of the camera angle. I keep it up there, but a lot of times I won't have the reference up there. It all depends on how I feel, you know? Yes, this is actually exactly. So what I'm doing, Jeff, is I'm using pastel dust, and I'm just, you know, sort of rubbing that into the surface. Now this is, of course, the you know, the airbrushed surface that I've been working on for 5 weeks now. Oh, Tone, so you picked up some tools. That's great, man. Definitely very cool. I use pencil in the beginning, the very beginning. I'll use pencil. I'll also use a pencil if I need to make a, you know, make an adjustment. I'll always revert to the pencil before I go ahead and go into it with airbrush. There's no pencil left here though. That's all the preliminary studies. So here I can see that we can really look into the drawing aspect of it and start to see some of the details. So as you can see, that, you know, as I'm moving along, I'm going to be moving slowly down, but whatever I do on this side, I do on that side, vice versa, that sort of thing. So moving down from her forehead, eyes to nose here. The next thing I'm going to do is work on her lips. And I don't want to get too specific too early. So I'm just going to work on the larger light shapes first. And then as I'm working on the larger light shapes, then I'll get more specific. And of course, what you got to do is make sure that you constantly load the sandpaper. With the pastel. One-second rule is important throughout the whole painting. So true. Actually, it's the pastel dust from the pastel pencil, and yeah, it's much better for the application. The pastel pencil is a little too harsh, especially when you want to do very soft areas such as her lips here. Yeah, the pastel pencil is a little more playing for keeps. You can be a lot more gradual with the tortilla in here, or stump. And like anything else, you got to make sure that you don't send the values out of whack with everything else around it. So you see that was good thinking right there, but a little too strong. So I'm going to tap that and bring that down. Oh, thank you, Jake. I appreciate that. Just trying to do the best job I can. Trying to get better every day, you know? That's what we're all doing. See, so we always got to make sure that we don't go out of whack with our values, especially in this light stage. It's so easy to do, to just knock everything out of balance, you know? Thank you, Jeff. Jeff says it's looking really great. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. So one of the things I've been doing lately has been working with Krita, Krita, and I've been using Krita to work on the compositions. I don't know if you guys seen my one painting I just finished, which was Aroused by Rothko, and that basically was composed with Krita, you know, with the Rothko painting behind her, and you know, changing the lights and darks to make it more of a unified painting. So the background was not the Rothko painting, of course. I went ahead and changed that. So Krita is a software that is very similar to Photoshop. And it's a painting software primarily, but you can do everything with it. I use it for painting, also photo manipulation software, which is really great. And I've been really having a good time using it to compose my paintings. So now here comes some of the fun part. It's like, okay, so I'm working on the lips here. So now we can go ahead and we can come in with our Fons and Porter fabric pen. All the supplies that I have here, if you go to the description field of this painting, of this YouTube video, you'll see in my YouTube store you can actually purchase these. So these are really great. I mean, look at it, you know, how detailed you can get with this. Detail that's far greater, yes, the fabric pen. Detail that's much greater than even a pastel pencil. But always make sure that you don't go out of whack with the values. And like anything else, just like with the airbrush, if you put less pressure, it's going to be darker. More pressure, it's going to be lighter. I don't get too lost in the details, so I just want to make sure that I just give the impression of what's going on with her lips as it's sort of bouncing off the bottom lip there. Oh, Jake, sorry I confused you, my friend. So you see, now Jake says, is it ink based? The fabric pen? No, it isn't. I believe it's chalk. It's something that a tailor will use to mark alterations on a fabric or something like that. Real interesting. There's just this sliver of light here under her nose. We're talking like just a sliver. Doesn't necessarily have to be there because I kind of like it. And then we can come in with her eye here. Can really pull out this highlight here. Okay, so you see how we're coming down now, and little by little as we come down, things really start coming together. So we're going to take, of course, our stump or tortilla, and now we're going to work on her chin here. Now all of this has been set up with the airbrush from the very beginning, working with that the light mixture and then the medium mixture and bringing it all together. It's the culmination of weeks 1 through 4. See, because the likeness, I'm really not really concerned with the likeness until parts 5 or part 6. This is when the likeness sort of comes out naturally. So in the beginning, you know, it's like, doesn't look like her, but, you know, at this stage, you see it really starts to come together. So let's continue with her chin here. In that 1 second rule, you're really going to sort of have insurance of not going your own direction. So I think a lot of times when I'm working and I'm not really being diligent, I could start thinking about my shopping list. I can start thinking about a conversation I had, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, I'm painting. And then she starts looking like Kirk Douglas or something like that. That's something you don't want to do. So that 1 second rule really keeps you honest and keeps your head in the game. So I'm really tapping. See how I'm just tapping? Because if I just go in and just, you know, start rubbing in, you know, I'm going to lose that skin texture. Remember, skin is rough, so light's not bouncing off of it evenly. Light's bouncing off of it in different directions, so that's why skin has a rough appearance, and that's why skin basically, you know, has almost like a dotted feel to it. So not using skin templates or stencils really forces you to pay attention and look for those vibrations of light. I can always darken this out, you know. Oh, the 1 second rule. I love the 1 second rule. The 1 second rule basically, Jeff, is to, if you're going to paint for a second, you look for a second. If you're going to paint for 2 seconds, you look for 2 seconds. So for how long you look, that's how long you paint. So if I'm painting this area, I'm going to be looking there, and then I paint for that same period of time, and then I go ahead and repeat the process. So I look for a second, I paint for a second. Really keeps you in the game, you know, keeps you paying attention, keeps you honest. So those are that was a very important rule for me, because you know, you wonder, like, I'm looking at this subject, why isn't it not looking like it? Or, you know, why is what I want not what's on the paper? It's because I'm really not giving it that 1 full second. Or I'm looking for a second and painting for 5 seconds, so I have 5 full seconds of going my own direction. Now in the shadows, there are sometimes lights in those shadows, and what you want to do is you want to look for those lights in the shadows, because remember, there are details in shadows. So we moved that down to here, and I'm pretty happy with what we have now. Okay, so now we're moving down, so let's go ahead, and as we're moving down, let's continue to her chest and breast area. Now, what I can do is, if I'm looking at this closely, can I go a little bit darker? I think I can. Even though I have the dark mixture, what I can do is I'll just go ahead and have a little more distance, and I'm just gonna pump. Now look how far I am from the surface here. I'm really far, you know, I'm probably 8 inches away, 6 to 8 inches away. So I'm careful not to go on the blouse there, and I'm just pumping the trigger, and I'm just creating a little more texture. Now what I'm also doing is I'm setting up the white pastel, because now there's a dark for that white to really pop off of. Remember, something is really bright because of what's behind it. So this will help. Remember over here on the top, I said I was going to, I was almost tempted. In the forehead, we have a little darker area here. I was tempted to go ahead and do that with the dark mixture, but I think that's a mistake, especially showing you guys that. So I'm going to wait for the medium mixture for that. So as you see, I went ahead and put that in there. What I'm going to do is make sure that no ink is coming out, and I'm just going to put some air on here, dry that out nicely. Okay, now we can go ahead, and now we can start worrying about some texture. Remember, skin is not smooth. So I'm doing that 1 second rule. I'm not just putting in, you know, this light value. I'm actually looking and seeing where, you know, where it is lighter. And then later down the line, you're going to go in with more detail with this rigger brush, and go and put some, you know, hairs and stuff like that. But that's down the line. But as you can see, things are starting to get a lot more detailed. But that 1 second rule will really keep you from getting in trouble. Interesting. Yeah, you know, working on a flat surface took some getting used to, definitely. Working on a flat surface, definitely because I was trained to paint, you know, vertically. But, you know, as far as live streams, I had to go on a flat surface. So it kind of forced me to revisit when I was a kid. You know, when you're a kid, you're always drawing and painting on the dining room table. So that's how I was taught. There was no such thing as an easel when I was young. Easel only was introduced to me when I became enrolled in art school. So you know, it's what really helps though is that I'm seeing what you're seeing on my computer screen. So that is that really helps. But yeah, it seems like it would be, but for some reason, our eyes always compensate for that. Hey, what's up, Bill? How's it going? How are you, sir? Oh, that's a pretty cool thumbnail you got there. That's pretty neat. Now what I can do just very quickly is reiterate her blouse there. Just bring this white down. So I really like the way the white of the blouse really comes forward from her breast area. Like I said, it's all the hard work, from weeks 1 to 4 coming together. Oh man, so from all that painting and the color, right, Bill? There we go. Okay, so you see I'm going to extend that white down. Now let's go ahead and see if we can work on inside this dark area here. Because remember, there is details in the dark. The 1 second rule will really help you from going too crazy with that. So it's funny, it's getting cold here in the New York City area, and so you hear a lot less. You can hear a pin drop here. You don't have my fan going or the air conditioner. Doesn't sound like I'm doing a live stream from the boiler room. So Jeff, I definitely went ahead and used a digital projector to project this image onto the paper. But I'm never really satisfied with that, Jeff. So I end up drawing, at least an hour to fix it, and I go over with a pencil and everything. So but definitely to save time, definitely go ahead and transfer that. So this is all, a pencil drawing at first, and then from there we start going with the light mixture, Jeff. Yes, it seems like it went from summer to autumn, didn't it? Right here with the blouse, I'm just going to quickly put in this little blast of white from her blouse here. I think that's just a nice touch to really give a feeling of her blouse underneath her hair there. Just giving a little bit of reality looking thing there. Just doesn't really mean much, but it's pretty cool. Oh my God, so they're really hurting you. Oh man. So definitely, I really hope that, they stop hurting. Okay, so remember I have that dark mixture, right? So before I go ahead and dump out the dark mixture, I'm just gonna see where I could use it a little bit more before I go in. Just very quickly, and you know, like I say, you want to make sure that certain areas are not, you know, don't have as much coverage as it should. That's just a natural thing to happen. Just give me one moment to find my freehand shield. Where did it go? Okay. So right here, the dark of her hair here. All right, now we still have a lot of work to go when it comes to her hair, but that's okay. We might have a part 6 for that. We'll see. There are some subtleties in her chin here. That 1 second rule will really make some of these complex areas much more simple. Let's see. There we go. So you see, it is very complex, but the thing is, if you do that 1 second rule, it's not as bad because you're only worrying about 1 second. As you can see, I'm always moving around. And always make sure and say, okay, did I send things out of balance there? And what you want to do is you want to go ahead and tap that. Send that right back into balance. Then you can go ahead and see where there's a buildup of light, and that's when it's like most light facing, you know, and sort of like, you know, a snow drift, you know, where it's getting the most snow. And look at the light in the same way. Where is it getting the most light? And ask yourself why. Okay, so I think we're in pretty good shape right now, so let's go ahead and dump out the dark mixture. Now when you have the dark mixture, it's always good to flush it out a little bit because you don't want the dark mixing in with the lighter one. So just going to put a little water in my brush and spray that out, spray that through. So this way when I go ahead with the medium mixture, I don't have dark mixture, you know, in there with it. Okay, so I'm going to get my medium mixture here. Okay, now we're all set. Always test out before you put it on your artwork. Make sure everything's working perfectly. Okay, so that means we are all set. So time to get to it. So medium mixture time. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do some of those details I said in the forehead. We're doing the 1 second rule. We're pumping the trigger, making sure we're only painting what we see. 1 second rule helps us from going in our own direction. I mean, the painting could live without this stage, but I think this is what really brings it to the next level. See, that's giving texture, also giving a feeling of three-dimension of what's happening with her anatomy of her skull, of her forehead. Now looking at this, I can see that the value on her nose is a little out of balance. So what you can do is you can just take your kneaded eraser and you can just tap, and that will just bring whatever value that is just down a little bit. Now right here, this little shadow area is a little out of balance, so you can just pretty much glaze over that and you could send that back into balance. You're constantly looking at the painting as a whole, looking for things that are off, so you can go ahead and bring that together. There we go. Mike S says, Tim, which airbrush do you like more, the Arrow Extreme or the 2020 Fine? Right now, I know you jump around using the brushes. This is definitely the airbrush of choice right now, which is the Extreme Patriot Arrow. I feel that the detail is even better than the Sotar Slim. The Sotar Slim is fantastic, but for me, just for me and my hand and how I work, this is probably the best detail airbrush. I have the .21 needle and nozzle combination in here. I also use the Sotar Slim and I love it. And I can get, you know, the same type of detail, but this one just feels so right to me. So definitely the Extreme Patriot Arrow is one of the reasons why I like it. It has a little bigger cup than the Sotar's 2020 Slim. So I really like, also I like the fact that it has that cone inside, which is really amazing. The nozzle in there is really fantastic, and it's just a very durable airbrush, you know. I think that's what I really love about it. It's like the Warthog, you know. of the airbrush world. The A10, you know? It does everything it's supposed to, and it's reliable. It's not as pretty as the other airbrushes, but that's okay. I don't really go for pretty. At least when it comes to airbrushes. Let's see. So you want to, getting that shape of the forehead, of, where it turns is really important. So that's what I'm looking at now. As you can see now, the forehead is starting to turn. I do have the regular 2020 with the cup on it. I like that airbrush. That airbrush is, I've done full paintings with the regular 2020, and I do like that. That one is relegated from me, for larger areas. Like doing the white in the beginning. That's a fine airbrush. I also have one of the Renegades, which is really nice. See, right here, I think that the value is a little dense here. Sort of doesn't have enough life in it. So as you can see, I'm just going to add some white pastel in there. And what's that going to do is going to give that shape there a little life. Meaning that there's light in the dark. It's not just this like patch of tone. You want to look away from putting just a patch of tone somewhere, and that's really going to make the work look amateurish. So when you put in a value, not right away, of course you're going to put a tone, but later down the line you're going to want to give life to it. Sort of like a baseball analogy. You can throw a fastball and it's going to get knocked around no matter how fast you're throwing it. But if there's movement in that fastball, then it's going to be dynamic and it's going to be much harder to hit. Same thing, when you're putting in a value, if you can have some dynamic luminosity within there, luminous light within that dark, then all of a sudden the work becomes really alive. Going to the Metropolitan Museum of Art and seeing a lot of the work of the old masters, and the ones that really stand out really know how to do that, is to put life in your values. Just because it's a dark doesn't mean you have to be this dead value. Same thing, it's like, okay, we had that value, right? But now it looked kind of dead to me. So putting in some life into it really changed it for the better. Same thing here. I'm going to go ahead and put some life into this area here. Mike asked, did I do the lace on the top last week? No, actually I didn't. That's something I definitely wouldn't do in the live stream because it's just very time consuming. So I did that during the week, and I'm going to finish the actual lace of it next week, I think. During the week I'm going to go ahead and finish that up. Something like that, a little more time consuming and a lot of measuring, stuff like that. Sorry about that. Yeah, unfortunately, something like that will probably not be in my live streams, Mike. Okay, so you can see, you know, we're in good shape right now. Things are really starting to look good. Let's go ahead, and since we have our medium mixture, we'll just put some of it in here. Let's see. We'll go to the medium mixture. And we're just going to go ahead and do some nice detail with the paintbrush here. See that? There it is. Got our paintbrush. And like I said, it's always good to have this as a test, because this way you know exactly how it's going to apply to your painting. So it has to be the same surface that you're working on. Oh, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. Mike says, looks at me. I appreciate that very much, sir. So, you know, with the medium mixture and the paintbrush, we can really start doing some pretty cool things here. Like I said, don't always use the art supply that's, you know, most impressive. Ooh, he did the whole thing with the airbrush, so what? I'm going to use the art supply that's going to do the best job for me. That's, you know, just like a baseball team, you're going to, you know, you're not going to ask your pitcher to hit a home run, you know? You're going to go, you need a home run, you're going to go to your home run hitter. But you can see now I'm tightening things up here. Just moving around a lot. Give some direction to the hairs here. But doing that 1 second rule, you know, you're not going to be exactly, you know, right on the money with the hair. But if you're paying attention, then it's pretty cool. Mike says he bought the mixing cups with the raised measurements on them. The mixing stick always catches them and flicks paint all over the... Oh man, that sucks. Oh man. Yeah, those are like the hard lessons we learn, Mike, right? You know, believe me, I have a lot of those lessons. So here's one case in point. If you see here, it has like a little lip to it. So I used to mix, you know, when I work in acrylic, I would mix it back and forth. Well, that little lip would catch and then start spraying and spattering as well. So yeah, we all have those hard lessons. Yes, exactly. So what I'm looking now in the hair, I'm looking for some large sort of dark areas. See, so you can start really feeling the texture in her hair now. So remember, we're working on texture throughout, and now it seems like now we can really start feeling the texture in her hair. As we get more advanced as artists, one of the things that really starts showing up is the variation of texture, or different textures in the painting, and the contrast thereof. Mike says, when were you working on the eyes and stuff erasing? Was that a Tompo refill in your fingers? No, actually, that was a regular stump or tortilla, and just pretty much applied that with the pastel. Or applied pastel with it. And as you can see, really get a feel for that hair texture. And I will be coming in with white pastel with this hair here, just very sparingly here and there. Now the hair in most areas are very soft edge, as you can see right here. But then it seems to get very hard edged right here. Because what happens is some hair, a large sort of strand of hair sort of comes out. With hair you don't have to be exact. Don't try and be exact. You'll go crazy. Plus the painting's not about hair. Hair is an important element, but that's it. But you see here is a very hard edge. That is a little wet, so I'm just going to tap it. I don't want it to stain that surface there. So what we can do is I always make sure I get the ink out of my, even though I'm just taking a break for a short time, I'm going to get the ink out of there, okay, out of the bristles there. Going to come in with my Tombow eraser and let's erase some of these negative shapes here. These little details, they seem little, but really goes a long way to create that impression. Like how, people are going to wonder how you did it, but it really is just a lot of suggestion. And it doesn't have to be exact at all. Now notice here, let me put the glove on this finger, this hand here. Notice how easy the ink erases when it's this dark. Actually erases a lot easier. This, of course, is my ink mixtures also. Of course, they're done with the Speedball Swiblack India ink. I definitely would not use any other brand. That is my brand of choice. Mike says he likes seeing the use of other stuff than just airbrush and eraser. He was worrying that was wrong to think of using other things like brush, pencil, and stuff. No, and you know those same people who might be telling you that, those are people who are using sandpaper and razor blades. So really they got no right to start talking about some purist airbrush technique. So don't listen to those guys. And you know why they're not, a lot of the automotive guys aren't using pastel? Because they can. You can't use pastel with automotive. So they would, believe me. So don't, all's fair in love and war and art, So whatever gets you there. And, I use these materials because it's the best to get the look that I want, and I'm sure the look that you guys would want too. That's why I share it with you guys. Oh, Bill says he started out that way. Yeah, listening to those guys. Don't listen to them at all, right, Bill? That whole purist way of thinking, whatever. Airbrush is a renegade medium. It's, those guys starting trying to be purist is kind of goes against the whole nature of the medium. If someone wants to be a purist, to go straight into working in oils and only oils with big fat brushes. If you want to go as pure traditional as possible, then go all the way, But yeah, it's sponges, anything that works definitely is the best, anything. Man, if I have to, whatever tool or weapon I need at my disposal, I am going to use it to win the battle. And that's just, that's just smart. Okay, so let's see. So I'm liking the way the hair is going. Let's go ahead and darken this area up here. This is part of creating clean work, where you see that doesn't have enough of the value or tone, make sure you put that in. Especially in the corners. You'll see that, for some reason the corners are not getting the attention it should. So to create a work that has a finished look, you don't, you make sure that you're paying attention to all areas. When I work in the background, of course, I'm going to pay attention to this area, but we're not working on the background today. Posca paint pens, anything that works, Bill. That's the way I am, It's really important. I find the same way. Those micron pens are fantastic. Smush denim on something, create no problem. Yeah, definitely. Mike said he's already breaking some golden rules if he did eyelashes with a pencil and other things to get tight detail. No. As long as it, you can get away with it and it looks great, that's all that matters, as long it's the end result. So here we can see we could go ahead and extend this dark all the way down. going to use a freehand shield here. Perpendicular and not parallel. But you see how we have that clean look now. You know, we want that sort of clean look. It looks like I'm being decisive. And that's what you want. You want your work to be decisive. Now I'm going to go back in with some detail here. Like I always say, you want to basically move around, check for imbalances, stuff like that. Yeah, that's true. There are limitations, you know, you're painting in a car or something, you know, you don't have the ability to use pastel because it has to, you know, with the elements, right? So the pastel is going to come off immediately. Yeah, if that was my bike, I wouldn't want people using the X-Acto knives on it, you know? Mike says now that he thinks about it, if he can use saran wrap to make a wrinkle pattern, why not a pencil for eyelashes? Exactly. Exactly. You know, there's a variety of not just one eraser, there's a variety of erasers. You know, if we have that sort of purist thinking that a lot of people seem to be pointing off on people, then we'd have one eraser and we would have, you know, there are no rules, you know, there's no rules. The rule is make it look good, that's it. Like I said, that 1 second rule is going to keep you from making a lot of mistakes. Yeah, to be a purist is really ridiculous, you know? You know, the more you do it, the more that the purist thinking sort of goes out the window. What if I darken this just a little bit there? See what that does? Want to continue getting, I think that might be a little too dark. Well, we'll leave it there for a sec. Let's go ahead and continue with that spirit of getting the structure of her skull. Mike says that there's a huge guy that does paintings in airbrush like 3 by 5 feet and puts like 200 more hours into each painting. Very interesting. Wow, just because someone has a master's in fine art, Bill, they doesn't mean that they know anything about painting. They might know about painters, they might know, but yeah, I've seen a lot of horrible painters come out of colleges. Horrible. Those guys who spend like months and months on a painting, I don't know what they do for food because if they're making a living on their art, I don't know who could spend that kind of time on a painting. That's pretty funny. Mighty funky attitude. Uh, let's see. What does Tone says? Why worry about what people think? How do you do your art? Tone says that he can care less what the next one thinks of his techniques. I agree. That's true. Exactly. Tone says he just worried about pleasing himself with the results, and that's a great way to look at it. That's for sure. See how much more interesting her forehead is now. I didn't just leave it the way it was. I'm going to do some of that, more of that texture, just like that in her face there. So you see, now that we're really getting into not just painting things, okay, we got the values and now I can go on my merry way. I have the lines, the contours and the values. Now I can just go off into the sunset. No. Now is when you have to worry about texture. Now is when you have to worry about the values and the light shifts within those tones that you put in. This is next level. You're not going to be able to hit that just by putting in that value. That's an impossibility. So that's why you got to go back in there and really start doing some fine tuning. Remember, I'm pumping the trigger as I'm going. Yeah, Tone says he just wants the next painting to be better than the one before, and that's it. The next painting, the one we're working on, is always the one that's going to make us rich and famous. Am I right, Tone? That's how I look at it. You know, this is the one that's, you know, whatever I'm working on now, this is the one that's going to be the tipping point. You got to believe that. Yeah, me too, Tone. You know, we always hope that the work's going to go viral, and it will. It's just a matter of time. But you got to keep doing. You got to keep thinking. You know, got to keep thinking outside the box. Did you get Saquon Barkley to see that particular painting? Because if he could see it, that would be great. I think he would love it. So I think you should get that to him. Or at least go to his Twitter page and send him a picture of it. Hey, I've tried, you know, with the celebrities I've done. I tried to get it to them, but it didn't reach them. I'm going to keep trying, but, you know, that's why you got to keep, you know, shooting the basket, you know, basketball. Eventually it's going to go in. Oh, cool. That's good thinking. Send it to his Twitter as well. And if you can find out who his manager is, that would help you. And see if you can send it to his office, the manager's office, or send a picture of it to the manager's office. That might be a way of doing it. Or even to, you know, call the front office of the Giants. Just ideas. No, you can't hit a home run from the dugout. That is so true. Mike says, you want to see my last big job before I got into airbrushing? Scooby-Doo van on Flickr. It's the only one with a windshield visor on it. Wow, I got to check it out. That's pretty cool. So I'm really starting to like a lot of things about this. Let's see. Soften up this area there. Same thing here. Bring this in. Soften up the contrast over here. Bill, you just got to find your market, that's all. And you got to keep plugging. Takes time, you know. Believe me. Tone says the economy isn't too going too well. I can hear that definitely. Bill says while he's come a long way from the $50 for a painting level, he's still way below value. Uh, oh, and look on Kresge and look for it there. Oh wow, definitely. We'll check that out. It's always hard to see on the painting surface, especially when it's dark like that, if the airbrush is working correctly. So you just want to double check. It is, but it's hard to see where your tone is actually landing on a dark area. So we have some soft edges over here. Up top there. So you see how nice and soft it is right there. No, I wouldn't drop your prices, that's for sure. I would stick with the prices, especially if your collectors are purchasing them at that. Uh, you know, that's a rough thing, but you never really want to bring down the prices. I think whatever you do, you have to do gradually. So one can't go from, let's say, $50 a painting to $500 a painting. You just have to do it gradually over a period of time. And this way your current collectors don't feel like, you know, hey, I want to get more work. All of a sudden your work is crazy prices. So gradual is always the best, you know. Tone said he made more money when he wasn't as good as he is now. Well, then you got to ask yourself, what kind of marketing were you doing, Tone? You know, like anything else, you have to do market research, find out who is doing the same genre, and then tell yourself, okay, either I go lower price or I do it better and do it at the same price. That's free enterprise, and that's what you want to do. So but like any business, you have to build a brand, Tone, you know, and Bill, that's what you have to do. Build a brand by what you guys are doing. You're doing YouTube, you have Facebook and Instagram and all of that, and you're posting, and that's all part of it. So you have to create that, and you have to be, you know, we have to be consistent, and we have to deliver, and we have to pretty much find a niche and do exactly what that is, you know. Wow, so Bill's Tone said he was doing a lot of street fairs, street sales, and now you get tickets for it, so that's pretty rough. And it also depends on the area, but you know what? The internet is really uh, that's where you want to do your. That's where you want to sell your work. You know, brick and mortar is dead. You want to join like you want to enter juried shows when you can that have high profile venues, national shows, international shows that you know are exhibited locally, or you send your paintings there, and there you'll get really good exposure. So there are a lot of different things. Uh, but yeah, the internet is where you want to make your presence. And I see you guys doing that, so that's important. Remember, the riches are in the niches, so find something that is just yours and perfect it, and basically keep going with that. You know, you want to be known for something very specific. You know, and those are all the books I've been reading on, you know, venture capitalist, not venture capitalist, but, you know, entrepreneurism and stuff like that, and guerrilla marketing, all that stuff. So we're in the last 10 minutes of this live stream. That's pretty cool. So let's finish this up backwards. We're going to go ahead and we're going to work with the light mixture. We're going to do some really tight details in the lights. You don't want to do the details in the lights with your medium mixture. Remember, when you're going lighter, you always want to go ahead and clean out the airbrush just a little bit more than if you were going darker. So you see I have mine here. And what I'm going to do is quickly is just flush it out with some water. Flush out some of that medium, actually all that medium mixture from in there. And after that's flushed out, we're going to go and put in our light mixture. Okay. There we go. Always make sure that top is on there really tight. Make sure the brush is operational, that there was nothing weird in there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do some details in the lights there. Oh, seems like I lost my authorization of the chat. Let me go ahead and put that in real quick. Just be a quick second. There we go, almost there. Great. All right, so we are back, and okay, man. So go ahead. So let's see. So Bill, you have a good night, man. So cool to see you. So that's pretty neat. And I hope your eyes feel better. It's neat to see you there, Bill, and I really like the color painting that you did, or you're working on. It's really nice. So right now I'm just going ahead and I'm putting in some of the detail in the lights, and we can only do that with this light mixture. Otherwise it would draw it out of whack. So you see it's making things much more textural, you know, so that's really important. Next level stuff, guys. One second rule keeps you from going off doing your own thing, not paying attention to what you're painting. In the chin area. A lot of things going on in those areas that seem like just a voided area, or just, you know, hey, I got the value down, I'm done. No, not so easy. Not so fast. You can also see where you, as you paint further, where you might have gotten overzealous. Like right here, I've gotten a little overzealous where I extended this sort of, I guess, lack of a better term, bag under her eye. And I sort of extended it too far. And so, with that being said, I can go ahead and fix it. Mike says hopefully he feels better by next weekend. He's going to dig into the airbrushes the whole 2 days. That sounds great, Mike. Oh man, that's a good 2 days. Sounds like a good weekend. Okay, so let's make sure that we have everything under control with her Cupid's bow here. See how the hair sort of starts coming together, guys? And hey, Lance, how's it going? Good to see you. See how the hair really starts coming together. And I really haven't done any detail yet, but just paying attention to the large areas. And you can even see right here where you see the blouse coming through the sort of sheen of the hair. That's just worrying about the large area, guys, and not really getting too hung up on detail. Remember, we're always, with the hair, we're always looking at the forest. Until the very end, we'll do some trees. So we are in the last 3 minutes of this live stream. There will be a part 6 if I don't finish it on my own. Either way, we'll definitely see you either with a new project next week or part 6, so not sure. At any rate, if you go on paintedglyphs.com later in the week, or I'll go on Ink Flingers on Facebook. If I do finish it, I'll post it up. So Mike says he found his old autograph projector. Is that the one with the light bulb? That one? Oh, okay, cool. So those projectors are great. That's how I started with my first projector, was an autograph. In the spirit of making sure that the values have life in them, not just tones, I'm just going to put a little life into this shadow area right there. Really, because if we just do a tone and just leave it there as one straight tone, like a straight gray number 7, and put that on the face, it's not going to look right, guys. You're going to look, it's going to look very posterized, but it's not going to look like she's alive. So that's what I want you to do. When you get to this point, I want you to really start looking for the lights and the shadows. But when you do that, make sure you're doing the 1 second rule, and make sure you don't go to this stage too early. Not doing the 1 second rule and going to the stage too early is a recipe for disaster. So those are things you want to definitely be wary of. So now I can just go ahead and, with the white pastel, I could hit on some areas in the hair. Like, remember, we're still doing the forest, so we're doing some large areas like that. Nothing too individual yet. But as you can see, I'm moving around a lot, guys. A lot of movement. Oh yeah, the designer model with the 250 watt bulb, but only takes 4x6 photos. Yeah, 4x6 is rough. That's tiny. So okay, so we are at 11:30. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out. Really appreciate it. This was a very informative live stream. I hope you guys got a lot out of it. I think she's coming out okay. I'm pretty happy with her so far. So there might be a part 6. I'm not really sure. But I am pretty much, did everything that I was set out to do as far as teach you guys how to go further. How to use if I'm going to leave parts 1 to 5 up so you guys can see how I use these mixtures. And by, using these mixtures, we are able to do a painting very complicated like this and reduce that to its simplest mode of painting. So definitely check that out. So if you go on paintedglyphs.com, you could see the link to my paint mixtures. I ship them nationally and internationally. Also on Painted Glyphs, you can learn about my one-on-one Skype workshops, which are really exciting. Don't forget to hit that like button and the subscribe button. And take care, guys. I hope you have a great week. And thanks so much for hanging out with me.